Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jason Bent. The topic that I want to cover today is actually perfect timing, and I'll explain that here in just a moment, but it's how to determine the size of your drawer boxes, and more specifically, how to determine the spacing, because I think it's going to be very helpful when you go to create drawer boxes and also install drawer slides. Now, I'll just say this right off the bat, if you are expecting to come here and learn how to install drawer slides or how to build drawers, this is not the video for that. However, what I will say is I'll leave links to those videos that I already have down in the video description, and the information that I'm going to share with you in this video will pair very nicely with those other videos. So this part is just as important as building the box and installing the slides themselves. So what is this? This is a custom base cabinet that I built for my home office. I made a total of 4 of these, and we have decided to go another way with the home office, and the setup that I built was just too large. It's taking up too much space, so we decided to basically repurpose some of this stuff. Now, before I go and rip this whole thing apart, I figured this would be the perfect opportunity to share with you the method that I go through to determine the drawer box size as well as the spacing between the drawers. So I believe the reason people struggle with this so much is 2 problems. The first problem is that when you're building something custom, you have this idea in your head that everything has to be homemade and it's gotta maximize the space and all of these different things, right? Well, the problem with custom is that there is no reference, right? So if I'm building something that is not kind of an industry standard, I can't go reference anything because I'm building something custom, right? There's not, like I can't go and Google, specifications for a custom blah, blah, blah. So what I found, I feel like it creates anxiety in people, and then they're trying to figure it out, but there's no reference, right? Because what does everybody do now when they want to figure something out? They go to Google and they type it in and they look for some sort of reference. Now, with that being said, custom is obviously very different from standard. If you were to try to find the information on a standard base cabinet for maybe a kitchen island that has 1 door and 1 drawer, more than likely that 1 drawer is going to be used to store, utensils or things like that. I mean, there are books out there that will be by measurement, everything you need to know for whatever size cabinet you want. And all of those numbers are based off standards. Well, again, custom is not a standard, right? So you're basically creating all of those things as you go. So that's the first problem. Now, the second big issue that I find people run into, and just so you guys know, both of these I've done, right? That's why I feel like these are probably the 2 things that people struggle with. But that second issue is they feel like they have to take up every single small little area and maximize the depth of every drawer. While that could be good because it's going to give you a little more storage, let's be realistic. If you're building a drawer that is only going to house kitchen utensils, does it need to be 5 or 6 inches deep? No, it does not. But people have this misconception that if I have this much spacing here, I'm doing something wrong. Well, that's not the case. What are you putting in the drawers? What are your needs? And then build off of that. There's not a lot of difference between a 4.5 inch deep drawer and a 5 inch deep drawer. At the end of the day, if something doesn't fit in it, it doesn't fit. And you put it in a larger drawer, you find somewhere else to put it. Now, I think that second one is extremely important. So if I show you this, you'll see I didn't maximize every single space. I determined what I needed based on the size that I had, and I did a little bit of math. And I'm gonna walk you through the math that I would have done this and kind of explain it in a little bit more detail and show you a few things. Now, to be clear, with this example, this has undermount drawer slides, so there are a few different considerations that you have to make, which I'll cover. And if you're doing side mount drawer slides, in a lot of cases, it's actually a little bit easier depending on how or where you mount those side mount drawer slides. But the principles themselves will be the same regardless of what you're doing. Okay, so the very first thing that I do when I'm going through this process is I want to understand the height of my opening. I don't care about the width. The width is dictated off of the slides that you're using, period. So if this is 20 inches wide and you're using side mount drawer slides, realistically your box needs to be 19 inches wide because each one is 1/2 inch, okay? If you're using undermount drawer slides, then the measurements are different based on the undermount drawer slides that you're using. Now, I said earlier I have other videos. If you want to find out more, I have a video showing how to install undermount drawer slides, and I have a video showing how to mount side mount drawer slides. So now that we've discussed the width, we really only care about the height. And so what I'd like to do is I like to get a measurement. For this cabinet, my interior measurement is 25 inches. So that's the first thing I need to know. The next thing I need to know or decide is how many drawers I want. Now, what do we do with those two numbers? Okay, so we're gonna do some math now. Okay, so we already identified the opening is 25 inches tall. We'll just put that. The next thing I said is I want to know how many drawers I want. And in this case, I wanted 3 drawers. All right, so now we need to start coming up with some ideas on the size of drawers that we want. And so in this instance, I have a 10.5 inch drawer, and then I have 2 5-inch. What does this equal? 20.5. 20.5 inches of that is going to be taken up with my drawers. What does that leave me with? 4.5. Now I've got 4.5 inches. That's how much leftover space I would have inside of that box if I put each one of those boxes built stacked on top of each other. At the top of it, it would give me 4.5 inches. Now, what do we do with this number? So again, now that I'm back on this, 10.5, 5, 5, giving me a total of 20.5. So we have 4.5 inches to work with. So what I always tell people, okay, is you want at least, in my opinion, an inch between drawers. That's important on side mount. I'm talking an inch between the top of the drawer and the bottom of the drawer. And on undermount slides, give yourself at least an inch to the bottom of the undermount slide, because as you'll notice right here, and as you can see down at the bottom, they don't sit perfectly flush to the bottom of the slide, right? So if I was to install a side mount drawer slide, I could install it directly along the base and everything is very easy at that point, right? But this, it's a 1/2 inch gap from the bottom of this to the top of that. I'll talk about why that's important here in a moment. So what you see here is there's an inch from the top of this to here. There's an inch from the top of this drawer box to the bottom of this slide, and there's an inch from here to here. So that right there is 1, 2, 3 inches, okay? Down here, we're already losing a 1/2 inch, so that's 3.5 inches. Now, so we know we have 3.5 inches if we were to space our drawer slides an inch above each one of the drawer boxes. Now, that leaves us with an inch, and that's not really something you need to worry about because that distance is actually from the bottom of this to the bottom of the drawer on this one and this one. Those two measurements equal an inch, but everything works itself out, so that last inch doesn't really matter because it's all built into this scheme. Now, the reason why I said that it's a good idea to give yourself at least an inch from the top of the drawer to the bottom of the drawer slide on an undermount setup is because it gives you the spacing for your drawer fronts. And what's important about that is you want your drawer front to not only cover the drawer box itself, but you also want it to cover the bottom of the drawer slide. So by doing it this way, it allows you to cut a drawer front that will be not only over the drawer box, but over this, and then it gives you room for your next one to start. And because these are the same size drawer, the drawer front is going to be the same. And then you work your way down to the bottom, and it's the same thing. Obviously, the drawer front on this one is going to be much larger. Okay, so let's go back to the paper and see if I can illustrate this even better to show you what I'm talking about. So I've got my drawer box, and I do this with all drawer boxes that I make. If it's the same one over and over again, obviously I don't do it 10 times, but this gives me a good visual. Okay, so I've got my bottom drawer box here. I've got my next drawer box here. And I've got my top drawer box. And then here I'll write 5, 5, 10.5. That gives me a total of 20.5. And now I know I need to account for an inch space right here, 1 inch. I need to account for an inch space right here. And I need to account for a 1 inch space right here. And again, if I'm using undermount drawer slides, I know that I need to account for 1/2 inch right here. 1, 2, 3.5, 3.5. That equals 20 4. It's 24 inches. And remember, this is where I said that we're gonna have that extra 1 inch. That 1 inch is basically dead, right? Because we're considering it to the bottom of the drawer slide, not to the bottom of the drawer box when we're using undermount. If you're using side mount, then you can go from the top of the drawer to the bottom of the other drawer. So now that we've discussed that, that is exactly how I figured out. Once you do it one time, you're good to go. You have all your measurements and you can plan on that. Now I'm gonna bring you back in close one more time to show you an easy way to mount the slides. So what you can do to mount these, we know that this has to be 1 inch. If I built my boxes the right size, it's really easy at this point. I can basically install my bottom cabinet and then I can just use spacers from the cabinet from that point forward. So here's an example. Let me go ahead and take this out real quick. So quickly for a moment, let's pretend that these drawer slides are not installed, right? I'm not gonna take them out for the video just to reinstall them. So what you could do, and you could do this with the base cabinet. So we've come up here, I just installed this one. Now I need to install these slides. Well, because I know that the spacing from the top of the drawer to the bottom of this is 1 inch, I can create a 1 inch spacer and I can place it in here. That will support my drawer slide, and then you can simply screw it in. And you know that it's gonna give you the proper spacing, and the reference is the drawer box beneath it. So that right there is the steps that I go through when I'm doing something custom like this. Again, going back to what I was saying, if I'm doing a standard cabinet size, I'm probably just gonna use industry standards anyways. But when it's custom like this, don't feel like you need to reinvent the wheel just because you can't find some sort of content out there. Just take a moment to think about it, and I would actually say err on the side of caution and give yourself even a little bit more space in between if possible. Just because I have a 25-inch space here does not mean I need to have 6 drawers or 9 drawers, or maybe you're building something that, you know, needs very narrow drawers and you could build a lot. But just doing some simple math will really help you figure that out, and just give yourself that built-in buffer. I would love to hear down in the comments section below if you're somebody that has fallen into that. Like you do custom work and you just can't find resources on the custom thing that you're trying to build, or if you feel like you need to take up every single possible, you know, inch or eighth of an inch when building drawer boxes. So if you're somebody that struggles with this, give this a shot next time. Measure the total height of the interior portion of your cabinet, then determine how many drawers you want, and then just start doing some math to see if the numbers work out. Once you get an idea of how big you want the drawers and you see what the numbers turn out to be, you can always adjust from there to fit the situation that you're in. That's gonna do it for this video. If you guys have any questions, please do not hesitate to leave them down in the comments section below, or you can go over to Instagram, find me there at BENTSWOODWORKING, and you can shoot me a DM and I'd be happy to help. If you wanna support me in what I do, or you wanna learn more about me and what I do, head over to BENTSWOODWORKING.com. That's gonna do it for this video. Until next time, everybody, get out in the shop, try something new, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.